still remember the smell of old plastic and worn leather the first time I opened the box of cassette tapes. It was a chilly autumn evening, and I had just received the package from the Grieving family who had hired me to transcribe the recordings. The family had told me that the tapes were made by their recently deceased father, a man who had spent most of his life traveling and documenting his experiences on cassette tapes. As I began to unpack the box, I noticed that there were exactly 27 tapes, each labeled with a specific date and location. I was intrigued by the meticulous organization and attention to detail that the father had put into these recordings. My job was to listen to each tape and transcribe the audio into a written document, which the family could then use to remember their father's stories and memories. I set up my transcription equipment and began to listen to the first tape, which was labeled August 10th, 1995, Tokyo, Japan. The voice on the tape was warm and familiar, and I found myself drawn into the story of a bustling city, filled with vibrant markets and rich cultural experiences. As I continued to listen to the tapes, I started to notice a strange pattern. Each recording seemed to be made at exactly 2 a.m., regardless of the location or date. At first, I thought it was just a coincidence, but as the pattern continued, I began to feel a sense of unease. I couldn't shake the feeling that the father had been trying to capture something specific at 2 a.m., something that he couldn't quite put into words. As the days passed, I became more and more engrossed in the tapes, listening to them for hours on end, trying to decipher the hidden meaning behind the recordings. And then, one night, I heard something that made my blood run cold. On the 14th tape, labeled February 2nd, 2001, New York City, the father's voice was different. It was strained and nervous, and he was speaking in hushed tones. He mentioned something about the listeners and how they were always present, watching and waiting. I couldn't understand what he was talking about, but the fear in his voice was palpable. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized that I was listening to the tapes at exactly 2 a.m., the same time that the father had made the recordings. Suddenly, the room seemed to grow colder, and I felt like I was being watched. I tried to shake off the feeling, telling myself it was just my imagination, but I couldn't shake the sense of unease that had settled over me. As I continued to listen to the tapes, I started to notice strange noises in the background, faint whispers and creaks that seemed to be coming from all around me. I knew it was just the old house settling, but I couldn't help feeling that something was off. And then, one night, I received a package in the mail, a small box with no return address, containing a single cassette tape labeled March 15th, 2023, My House. I knew I had to listen to it, but as I put the tape into the player, I felt a sense of trepidation. The voice on the tape was familiar, but it was distorted and menacing, and it seemed to be speaking directly to me. "You're one of them now," it said. "You're a listener. I'm not sure what that means or what I've gotten myself into, but I know I'll never be able to go back to my old life again." As I sit here in the darkness, surrounded by the tapes and the equipment, I can feel the presence of the listeners all around me, waiting for me to make my next move. And I know that when the clock strikes 2 a.m., I'll be ready, listening for the whispers in the darkness.